training camp. It's only been a few days, but what do you see out of your position so far?
One of the most impressive things, the guys have pretty much given everything they've had. You don't see a lot of guys holding anything back. We're trying to emphasize, running to the ball and pursuit to the ball and creating turnovers. And the guys have really worked hard to this point. And, last night, some of the guys were a little sore and fatigued. But overall, it's been a pleasant surprise, pleasant start out of the linebackers.
Can you talk a little bit about the development of Skylar Miles and how he's doing so far?
Yeah, Skylar, he's definitely come in. He's had some high expectations of himself and also from us as a staff. But overall, he's picking up the scheme. There's a few things that he's had a tough time adjusting to. But for the most part, as a true freshman, I've been really, really pleased at his progress so far.
What about him physically? I mean, that's not how most true freshmen look, is it?
No, it's not. Physically, he has good size. Good movement, and he has enough weight to get in there and clang and bang with the big guys. Again, the speed of the game is an adjustment for him. Our offensive line moves fairly good, and they're a true test of what he's going to see in the Big 12 Conference. So he's not being, shorted from look standpoint as far as size and speed in this conference.
Is it just good genetics, or is it extra work that he's done? Do you have any idea why he's physically at that level?
I don't. I know he's been prepared and he's trained well to get to this point. And I think, he has some football things. He's an instinctive player, that's for sure. Some of the things that he's been able to do so far has been natural things. And now we're just trying to get him to really calm down and evolve to what we're asking in our scheme and our defense.
Okay. What kind of things can you do to get him on the field? Obviously, he's sitting at number 2 right now, but are there ways you can kind of incorporate him into the defense without totally throwing him out there on starter?
Yeah, for the most part, we want to make sure that he's able to cut down on some of the mental errors that he's had. Once he sees things and we correct him in the film room, he actually goes back and makes those adjustments within a practice or two, where some guys it takes a little bit longer time. So that's what I mean by he's kind of a football junkie guy. It's going to be hard to keep off the field, honestly, and hopefully, again, if he can really cut down on some of the mental errors. The tough part about what we're asking him to do right now is we're asking him to really control the defense at the Mike linebacker position. So he's coming into one of the tougher spots on defense, but for a young guy, he's handled it really well.
Is McDonald a good guy for him to be lined up with and learn from? And, fifth-year senior versus true freshman?
Absolutely. I think, for the most part, he's getting an idea of what, he has to get his body to physically look like, but also just the leadership and some of the physical attributes that we're counting on McDonald to bring, not only to the linebacker but to our defense. And hopefully, being under him and seeing how the way he operates and prepares for the game, we're hoping Skylar can take some of those things and really evolve to his own self. But it's nice to be behind a senior guy like that, for sure.
Has McDonald showed you anything that surprised you since he got here? All that experience,
We counted on him coming here, giving us a physical presence, a leadership standpoint, and then anything that he could contribute to us on the field from a footballer standpoint, we're really, really happy about. So far he's come in and he's done exactly what we've asked him to do, and we're hoping he can, again, he's learning a new defense for the first time. He wasn't here with us during the spring, so definitely from this standpoint, he's progressing well.
It's been different having kind of it's almost a full-scale evaluation of this defense, top to bottom, while you're trying to teach them at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing. I've told these guys every rep counts. We're trying to develop a 2-deep. We think all of our guys have to play, and hopefully we'll have a 2-deep. If someone runs away as a starter, great. But we plan on having a 2-deep where everyone plays, and I tell those guys you want to be in that 2-deep, and the race is on. So you got to make sure every rep you get counts, because you're being evaluated every single rep.
How much different does your group look than they did back in the spring?
Oh, a lot better. A lot better. They're more confident. They're playing with a lot more chemistry. They're more vocal. And I think, just with the repetition and some of the things that the guys are doing, the confidence is really kind of spreading amongst the group. But, again, it's hard defending Coach Weiss. He's, the scheme and things that he throws at us, it keeps us in the practice all the time, so we have to be prepared for the little wrinkles and things like that. But overall, it's night and day to me as far as what the guys have done from the spring to now.
Can you talk a little bit about the Sam position and how that's going to integrate, I guess, with Tobin and Michael? Coach Weiss made it sound like they're going to be switching back depending on the alignment. How often will we see a true Sam linebacker, Tunde or Prince or one of those guys out there?
A lot of that's going to be predicated on the offenses that we see. If we think a team is going to, load up against us and really try to make it a run game or run emphasis, then Tobin and the Michael Reynolds, those guys are more physical and more bigger than some of the guys we have. So we'll like to use those guys as bigger Sam outside linebackers, where if it's a more of a spread game, then Prince and Tunde and guys like that, they come more into play because of all the things we ask them to do in space, in coverage. So a lot of that's going to be based on what we think as a staff and who fits best for what we're trying to defend.
Feel pretty good about the depth you have there overall?
Oh, I do. I mean, it's a nice bonus to have a big guy like Tobin who's athletic, just as athletic and just as physical, to come over and really, toughen up that spot for us. But the guy that's really come on a little bit more this camp has been Tunde. He was really kind of out, and he's really kind of coming to his own as far as running around, knowing his assignment, and actually adding a physical presence out there. So it's nice to see him come on, and Prince was just steady throughout spring.
It seemed like Tunde last year had so much of that just fly, run as hard as you can, hit as hard as you can. Have you had to rein him in, and is he getting there?
You know what? I was trying to get him to fly in the spring, and he was just a little hesitant because it was a new scheme, and we were asking him to do some things different. But he's definitely pulled the trigger a lot more this spring, and you notice him. I mean, Coach Weiss has made several comments about him, Coach Campbell as well, and I say, guys, he really is a different player from the spring to now. We just have to continue to see if he can keep up with the defenses as we put more schemes and more assignments, and see if he can handle the adjustments.
That middle linebacker spot, is that guy kind of like the quarterback of your defense? What are the responsibilities that go with that position?
I like to think so. A lot of things go through the Mike linebacker, from close calls to checks to adjustments to getting us out of certain coverages into certain coverages. So, I like to put that pressure on them so that they know a lot of things do go through them. And I put the pressure on those guys to understand that. A lot of guys are counting on you to get us lined up and go play. So that, to me, I like to equate it to the quarterback of the defense for sure.
How often do you get to work with those guys? I mean, how's that schedule work out with guys like Tobin, who are bouncing back and forth between defensive line and linebacker? I mean, how's that work in practice?
For the most part, those guys typically have come to my room where we put certain coverages in where there have to be more coverage, responsibilities that they don't see as a defensive lineman. So we'll split that time up. Coach Wild to have them for a certain part of the meeting, and I may only get them for a certain part of the meeting. But we did the same thing in the spring, and it's really worked out well.
What about on the practice field? I mean, you usually see Tobin over there with the defensive lineman. Is that pretty consistent? Yeah,
he's over there for the most part, and when we have to have him in a certain coverage or a certain fit, Coach Campbell is really good about mixing up the individuals or the group things where we get those guys involved. But throughout the course of the year, Coach Watt has no problem with splitting up the meeting time, or if we have to use them on the field, splitting that practice time up as well.